7 time again for the 6-7 Sasscast, and with me as always, let me bring him on screen so you can all see him as well as I can. It is Brady Peterson from Prep Girls Hoops. Brady, thank you for joining as always. Appreciate your knowledge and being on with us today.
Oh man, every week I look forward to this, Gary. I have to thank you for putting me on your fancy schmancy show here.
Yeah, no, it's great having you, and I'll tell you, we're getting such great feedback from a lot of folks about how much they enjoy the podcast. So, without further ado, I'll stop self-congratulating here. Let's get right into. I mean, we have got a lot going on right now in girls basketball, and I want to start with our session that we're going to call buy or hold. And so think of it. I'm not going to do sell because we're not going to sell on any of these teams. But you know, I want you to tell me where you are. Buy or hold. Buy means, hey, I'm really bought into what these guys are doing, and I can really see some great things, you know, coming, and the momentum they have is really good. It's not a criticism of the coaches or the players. It's just team momentum, where they are now, and what we see in the coming weeks based on the schedule, based on, you know, injuries, that type of thing. So it's more about that than anything else. But so with that disclaimer aside, let's start with our first one. We always pick on him, but we just love him so much. That is Vinny Daniels. So let's give me your buy or hold on Hartford.
You know, I feel like a lot of people around the state would be on the hold side just because of the record. But I mean, I will say Vinny, even over the summer, was talking about how much he wanted to challenge those kids in their non-conference schedule, and he definitely did that. I think that's a team who's going to be coming in under the radar in the postseason, and definitely is a team that could still get out of that sectional, especially with some of the ways that, you know, other teams in there are playing. So I'm buying. I'm buying them, and you know, I think that main three trio of Bella Cloggis, Alexis Shelsa, and Rita Kipper are really good, and I don't think that they've played their best basketball as a trio yet, which makes them even more dangerous come February and March.
Are you surprised at all by the production that those three have been able to put up, especially offensively? I mean, the numbers are almost staggering. I mean, obviously, you know, filling, you know, the gap from McKenna Christian is not easy to do, but I mean, these three together have I think, to me, they've outplayed expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it is partially because of how Vinny wants them to play. They're a very up-tempo team, and they're going to try to attack every mismatch that they possibly can. And with those three, it's always pretty easy to find, you know, some way for one of those kids to be able to play really well. But, you know, I think and as just the perception that they've had before with, you know, having McKenna and being able to have her just kind of, you know, shoot from the parking lot, if need be, it's a little bit different for sure. But it's hard to bet against someone who obsesses over basketball as much as Vinny does. So maybe me just knowing Vinny makes it a little less surprising, but definitely really impressive stuff from them so far.
And they've been part of our topic, you know, for every Sasscast. So let's keep it rolling. What about Pewaukee?
Stars.
I mean, you know, where are you with Pewaukee? I mean, you know, first of all, they blow out Kimberly, they blow out Hortonville. I mean, you know, it looks like they're just going to run over everybody. And then Saturday night came along, and Oostburg got them by 28 points. I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, so the thing with Pewaukee is they've just been maybe the most unlucky team in terms of injury luck for honestly the last 4 years, or 3 or 4 years, I guess.
I agree.
You know, it's a little bit concerning with them showing up and seeing Maddie Chabot and with crutches and still walking around with a little bit of a limp too. So, you know, hopefully all is well with her. So they were technically down 2 starters basically for that game, and her and Eva Denzine, who I'm assuming recently had her surgery on her ACL because she wasn't at Oostburg. So it's a little tough. I mean, obviously they still have a lot of talent with, you know, Vanessa Johnson, the Pieper sisters, you know, Giselle. There's a lot there. I would be more hold on them for now, not because of really anything in their control, just because of the injury luck that they've had, you know, not just this year, but in years past.
So a hold on Pewaukee, Brady says. Well, while we're on that game, we got to congratulate Addie Ketterhagen for 2,000 points. I believe you were there. Is that right?
Yep, I was there. She didn't waste much time getting to that 2,000 number. I think she was like 6 off or something like that. And she got there in the first couple minutes and really didn't take too much time to get that 2,000 banner showing in the student section over there.
Well, give me a buy or hold on Oostburg.
I think it might be the easiest buy of all time.
I
Honestly.
would agree with that.
Yep, and it's more than just the Ketterhagen kids. Obviously, last year, I mean, there was, Macy Bruggen had a role to play,
Yep.
and Jordan Lentz played a role for them last year. But I feel like everybody just around the Ketterhagen kids have just gotten better. I think Soraya Benton has kind of figured out her role there pretty quickly.
She's been a
It
nice
just
ad
really
for this
feels like
team.
everything's coming together.
Yeah, Soraya's been a nice ad for this team this year. No, I
Yeah,
agree.
no, just super.
I'm with you. I'm a hard buy on Oosberg right now. Okay, maybe a little more murky here. Verona, what's your buy or hold on Verona?
It's so with the Big Eight schools, it's always a little bit interesting just because their schedule is always a little bit wonky because they have 18 of those conference games in the Big Eight. And just in terms of depth, the depth of talent hasn't been there in the recent past. It's getting better, for sure. And I will buy any team that Lexi Richardson coaches, just because
Agree.
I mean, I've never met her personally, but everybody in the Madison area has been so high on her as a
She's
coach. And,
fantastic.
they had a rough loss with Janesville Craig over the weekend,
What happened there?
missing Noel Rowolf in that game.
What happened with Craig? I mean, I haven't seen any of the numbers. All I saw was the score of 60-40, and that was on Saturday. But they had beaten them earlier this year. Let me pull it up on their season opener. Actually, that was Parker. Beg your pardon. On December 2nd, they beat Craig 57-33. So they beat them by 24 at Verona and lost to them by 20 at Craig. I mean, what's happening there?
Yeah, Noah Rowolf wasn't available for the second game this past weekend at Madison East. And the way it was described to me by a Madison coach is that Lexi Richardson creates a well-oiled machine at Verona, and when a piece of that machine is gone, it can get a little wonky. And I'm guessing that's just what happened. I don't really worry about them as a whole. It's just kind of one of those things where you're missing one of your most valuable kids, and maybe things just don't go as expected without him. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm still a buy for Verona just because of who they have walking up and down the sidelines.
And we're filming this at 2:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, so it'll be released tomorrow on Thursday. So I'm actually going to Verona tonight for Verona Middleton. So I'm going to say a hold on Verona until I see from my own eyes tonight. I'm excited to see Macy Stremlow play and really, of course, catch up with Coach Richardson and the Verona kids. Always love going over there. So I'll say a slight hold on them for now until I see them in person tonight against a pretty good Middleton team. Now, they beat Middleton earlier this year, November 25th. They beat them 77-52. That was at Middleton. So it'll be game 2 tonight, and we'll see if Middleton has a plan on this game against Verona. Okay, so that is Verona. What about Brookfield East?
Brookfield East is always a little bit tough. I kind of sit on the fence with them, mainly because I think their defense is good enough to keep them in any game they play. Just the way they play within that zone that they have and have for years now is always going to frustrate teams. No matter who you have lining up against them, more often than not, they're going to have a subpar offensive night for their standards. The only thing that keeps me from being like a full-on buy for them is just kind of offensively what they look like. Super young group outside of Josie Prokowski and Maja Kovacic. Just that's the one thing that keeps me from being like a hard buy on them. So I'll say hold, just so I'm not buying on everybody. But I will buy their defense and I will hold their offense is how I will split that.
Well, I'm kind of a hold on them too. And aside from Wauwatosa East, I mean the Greater Metro is not great this year. I mean, it's there's not a lot of tough wins in that conference this year. So I'd like to see more. They actually play Verona this Saturday at Verona. So a lot of things hinging on what happens this week, I guess, which of course that's, the nature of doing this in the middle of the season, but they'll get a good test with Verona. And then the rest of the way, it's all conference games. They've got a February 10th game at home against Tosa East, and then February 14th at home again against Pius. So, I mean, Coach Saxton, I mean, they line up a really good schedule. They're 10-4 on the year. But I'm with you. I'd like to see a little bit more. I want to see how things go this weekend with Verona. So I'm with you. I'm a hold right now on Brookfield East. I know you're a buy on these guys, but we'll throw it out there anyway. Whitefish Bay. You've been singing their praises all year.
Yep, full buy on Whitefish Bay. Going into the year, I had them as a team who I kind of think should be in a Division two state title game at the end of the year, and they haven't really done anything to dissuade me from that. Their guards are really good. Whether you look at Rowan Council, Maddie Volpe, Sage Miskell, Carrington Balthazar, even Rose Musseline when she comes off the bench there, like it just feels like there's just so much talent in their backcourt there. So all these teams that I mean, granted, Division two looks a little bit different with some of the elevations, but the just the depth of talent in their backcourt just makes them such a hard team to compete with. And I think they're going to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest, out in the entire Division two field.
Were you surprised they gave up 91 to Arrowhead?
The only reason that I feel like I would not be surprised, I think Arrowhead's actually really well. Obviously, they're really really good. But
Sure.
just physically, I think they are a little bit much for a team that has like a lot of 5'7", 5'8" guards, whereas Arrowhead's going like 5'11",
Mm-hmm.
5'10", with like a lot of
Yeah.
kids who've just been around and been in a very good weight training program over there at Arrowhead.
And looking ahead for Whitefish Bay, just looking at their schedule, they play Grafton January 30th. To me, that's a true measuring stick for Grafton more than it is Whitefish Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. That game is going to be at Whitefish Bay. I think we'll really get a read on where Grafton is after that game. But then they turn right back around. They go to Pewaukee. Then they've got a couple other games. They play Hartford on the 12th, and then Kettle Moraine Lutheran on the 17th. So again, I mean, Coach Schneider has built a really nice schedule, and I mean, I think we'll know a lot more in the next couple of weeks. That again, it seems like Pewaukee's like the measuring stick for a lot of teams as well. But I mean, they're a good test to go against, and of course, it depends on if Maddie's back or not. But I think I'm with you. I'm a buy on Whitefish Bay right now. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see what they do with Grafton next Saturday. I think that game was closer than what they would have liked back in December. Grafton won, or Whitefish Bay won that game 64-56. I think they were a little surprised at how tight it was. So I'm curious how they're going to do on the 30th. All right, next is, and I'll have to let you lead on. Well, let's just go to Grafton while we're at it. Give me your read on Grafton right now.
Yeah, I have been very high on Grafton since early on the season. They didn't have the necessarily like a heavyweight schedule coming out of the gates, but I think they had a lot of good habits that they showed in those games. And I'm a buy on them. I think that they're one of the three teams that could come out of Sectional 3 in Division 2. Obviously, for them, it's going to be the tougher path with them and Beaver Dam outside, in their half section with Xavier kind of being alone on the top. But I think their guards are really good. They move the ball really well, and I think that they're kind of finding their stride a little bit here. And I think that Whitefish Bay game, like you said, is going to be a really good measuring stick for them. And they play really well against Whitefish Bay just because they kind of are very similar in their profile and kind of who they have on their rosters. So a lot of really good guard play, and I think that game is going to be pretty fast paced, and I think that'll be really fun for the neutral to watch as well.
You said earlier in the conversation about Grafton about their schedule not being real tough, and I agree. So for that reason, and it pains me to say it, but I'm a hold on Grafton right now because I need to see if these kids are legit here when they play Hartford on the 27th and then Whitefish Bay on the 30th. Those are the only two games I see left in their schedule that they shouldn't win. The rest is Cedarburg, Nicolay, Slinger, and Cedarburg again. So I think the real tests are going to be Hartford on the 27th and then Whitefish Bay on the 30th. Count me as a hold until I see the outcome of those two games. I obviously have seen these kids all year, and when they play well, they're outstanding, and when they don't, it's not pretty. So we'll see which team shows up the 27th and 30th. To me, those are the two big tests for this Grafton team. Okay, moving on. How about Elkhorn?
Elkhorn, I am.
You never hear. How come you
in,
never hear anything about Elkhorn? I mean, it's like they don't exist or something. I mean, do you ever hear anything about them? I don't.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a weird place for them in the Southern Lakes. I think Union Grove kind of fell in that same category these last handful of years.
Agree.
With Rampula there. So like they're kind of out of sight, out of mind, and I don't think the Southern Lakes gets a ton of respect on the state stage, I would say, at least on the girls' side. But I'm very interested in them. I will say hold, just because they've had a little bit of a rough stretch here recently, losing a pretty big heartbreaker to Badger. And then having a rough showing against Monona Grove. I believe that was last night. So I'll say hold on them, but I think when you have a kid like Kieran Lyle, who's just so versatile. I mean, she's such a good passer for her size, and she can score from all three levels. She's not necessarily the one that I have like kind of a raised eyebrow at. At any given night, it's going to be determined by, especially against these really good Division II teams, and for them, that path will go through Edgewood. It'll be very much a game where you're looking at kids like Emily Bono or Kylie Schultz or Ayla Saunders to kind of bring their game and help them elevate over teams like an Edgewood, who's kind of been more of a traditional power over the last couple of years.
Well, 2 losses in a row for this Elkhorn team. Badgers, as you mentioned, 64-61, and Monona Grove last night, 46-34, both of them at home. They'll try and bounce back against Wilmette Union on Friday, and then it's Janesville Craig, and then Catholic Memorial. So, I mean, they've got some good tests coming up. The Union Grove game is February 6th, and then the finale is a rematch with Badger on the 19th. So, yeah, be curious to see. I can't really comment because I just don't know a lot about the team. But where'd you land on them?
I would say hold for now.
Okay, hold for now. All right, let's go to Edgewood, Madison Edgewood.
Yeah, Edgewood's really interesting because Stav is a bit of a psycho in terms of who she wants to schedule sometimes in the best way possible. So they started off the year, I believe, like 4-4, but those losses were like Hartford and Aquinas and Arrowhead. But one of the games in there that I don't think people maybe in Wisconsin realize how tough it truly is that Johnston game out in Iowa. That Johnston team is one of the best teams, not just in the Midwest, but the entire country, and have been for a while. And that score may not tell you the full story about how competitive that game was. But that Edgewood team is still pretty good. With Anna Miller running the show there, she's going to get the most out of everybody around her. Beanie Thompson's a kid who is just like a hard-nosed, like blue-collar kid. She's going to rebound. She's going to do all the little things to help her team win. And then for the rest of that group, it's just kind of figuring out kind of what roles look like for a lot of kids who haven't played major minutes in the past. So they're getting better as the year goes on. I mean, the Badger Small is one that they should is a conference they should be able to handle pretty fairly simply, I would say. But for them, I'm still high on them because when you got a kid like Anna Miller who can control everything, it's really hard to bet against them.
Well, if you look at their losses, I mean, Aquinas by 8, Hartford by 3, that Johnston, Iowa team, that was 69-48. Arrowhead got them 74-59. That was at Edgewood. I believe they played Laconia. No, the Laconia game's coming up. They haven't played them yet. They beat Cuba City by 34, and then also beat Madison Memorial by 35. I mean, to me, that raises eyebrows a little bit. I mean, Memorial's having a really nice year. I'm really surprised when I see that number.
Yeah, that Memorial team is pretty good. I mean, we could probably go in depth on that team too. But I just really like how that backcourt's kind of come together over these last couple of years with Avery Blue and Kennedy Harden. But I think that they just always have really nice role kids there too. Kiki Martin was a kid who last year played alongside Princess Wachuku, and she's kind of finding her groove as a 5 there. And Nevaeh Jackson's kind of a spark plug for them. And just in general, I think that's a really well-run program. And I think it's one of the more interesting programs in terms of just teams that have had to kind of rebuild post-COVID. I think Coach Flowers has done an excellent job there. And, in terms of people who are, the perfect fit for the specific job they're at, like he's probably up there with being the perfect fit for that Belfast Memorial job.
Yeah, agreed. They beat Verona on December 13th, 63-56. Lost to Waunakee, as I mentioned, lost to Edgewood. And then lost to La Follette back in November. Looking ahead while we're talking about Belfast Memorial, they get a rematch with La Follette. That is tonight, actually, Wednesday night. So we'll know more tomorrow. And then Oregon, Middleton, they get Verona again, February 6th, and they close out with Sun Prairie West and the Janesville duo. So I'd be curious, but they're in first place in the Big 8 right now, a game ahead of Middleton, a game ahead of Verona and La Follette. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on and talk about Edgerton. Again, I know this is a team you really have fallen in love with this year, but give me your read on Edgerton.
Yeah, Edgerton, it's tough in Division Three because I think there's that Oostburg cut, you probably have that KML cut, and then it's like kind of the next group of tiers of teams, and I think that's where Edgerton falls in. I mean, they had a rough showing against Brookfield East. I believe it was either Monday or yesterday. I kind of forget which day it was. Time just flies.
It
But
absolutely
Brookfield East
does.
will. Yeah, and Brookfield East's defense is going to frustrate everybody, like we were talking about before. And Edgerton was no different in that sense. And they're kind of at the mercy of their schedule too in the Rock Valley, which is not necessarily the strongest conference in division, for smaller or mid-level small schools.
Right.
So I buy them in the sense that I think that they're a team that can get to state. I'm a little bit of a hold in terms of if I think they're able to compete with teams like KML and Oostburg, who are playing unbelievable basketball this year.
And looking at their sectional, in their half of the sectional, it's Bigfoot, Cuba City, Delavan, Darien, Dodgeville, Evansville, Lancaster, New Glarus, Platteville, River Valley, Turner, Whitewater. I mean, to me, unless they fall apart somewhere, I mean, they'll cruise through those games.
I would think so, especially with the other side they have there.
On the other side, if assuming they get through that half of it, then they're going to get either Aquinas, might just be Aquinas. I don't know who else is. Anybody else on that side of it? Adams Friendship, Amherst, Aquinas, Lodi, Mauston, Richland Center, Viroqua, Watoma, West Salem, Westby, Westfield. Oh, Wisconsin Dells is in there.
Yep. That would be the one that could potentially usurp Aquinas in that side of the bracket. I would guess that'll probably be the 1 and 2 in that bottom half.
Yeah, I would I'd agree with that. Okay, all right. So let me circle back. Are we a buy or a hold on Edgerton?
I will say hold only because of the talent toward in that top 2 slots of Division 3, but I do really like that team.
Okay, next are the Wolves of Winneconne.
Winneconne is an interesting one because they're falling in that same slot of Edgerton, except that they are unlucky enough to have instead of having Xavier in their sectional this year, they now have Oostburg.
Right.
So congratulations, one of the Division 3 state championship finalists is no longer there, but you got Oostburg instead, which a little bit unlucky. But I'll say I hold on them just because of who they have to deal with. But I do think that they have a opportunity to compete with that Oostburg team, even though it didn't maybe seem like they were really all that competitive in that first game for the most part. But I think that Oostburg home court advantage is more powerful than most people can imagine with the community support they have behind them.
Well, they're 14-2 and they're 9-1 in the Bay Conference. Only loss was to Xavier. Let me ask you this: Can they win out from here? So here's who they got left. They played Leonardine and Shawano next week. And then Green Bay East, Wisconsin Dells at home. That actually, I think that's at the Dells. Weyawega, Fremont, FVL, St. Mary Catholic, and Menasha. I mean, could they potentially win out?
Yeah, I think they potentially could. I think that Wisconsin Dells game is probably more of a barometer for where that Wisconsin Dells team is heading into the postseason than Winneconne. Because I think that Winneconne team, we kind of know what they are. I mean, they've been around for a little bit now, and that junior class has just been getting better and better.
Right.
But I think that that's a team who has the potential to win out. But I would say that Wisconsin Dells team might be the one that I look at and think, maybe that's one that they drop, especially if they have to travel, maybe like 2 hours on a bus to get to the Dells.
Yeah. And while we're on it, what about St. Mary Catholic? I mean, where do you put them? I mean, of course they were undefeated coming into last weekend, and then lost to Oostburg by, I believe, 16 last week. So where does that put them?
Yeah, I think St. Mary Catholic for Division 4, I buy them. I think that the thing with their group is that they have a lot of kids who have just kind of been there, done that at this point now, being in a Division 4 state championship last year. And I think Division 4 in general has been a pretty big crapshoot of a division since, I've been around at least. And when you have a kid like Autumn Crow, who's, just equipped to be able to rebound at an elite level, she's been able to get to the rim at an elite level. And, she's just a kid who's going to manufacture points just because of how hard she plays. And, her athletic tools are just like something that's completely different than what everybody else has. So I buy them for Division 4. They're a team that's really impressed me this year.
Well, and they beat Hilbert last night, 73-12. But, the second half of their schedule is going to be tougher than the first half. I mean, so they're going to get Pacelli on tomorrow, on Thursday, and then Manitowoc Lutheran, on the 27th, which that may be kind of a trap game. They beat them once already this year, but I'd watch out for that one. Laconia, February 9th. We talked about the Winneconne game on the 17th. I mean, certainly all of those games are winnable. Do you worry maybe, are they battle tested enough to go back this year?
I had that same thought with them last year, and then they make it to a state championship.
Right.
I feel like if I say no, I'm almost trapping myself for a potential run for another gold ball or silver ball. I guess
Well, they may want you to say no.
They might. But I think that they're going to play. Obviously they're playing some pretty good teams to end their year, and they'll probably see Manitowoc Lutheran twice. Once from the regular season, once in the postseason. Just with how that sectional kind of shakes out. But I think that they're going to be ready for another run to state, and I think with the experience that they gained last year, getting there and coming up short against a really good Cuba City team who was pretty much not taking no for an answer to win that gold ball. I think that they're gonna. It's their time to kind of go and try to make another run at that thing this year.
Well, we'll see. I'm curious to see how that shakes out for this schedule for them. All right, another team you've been pretty high on this year has been Eau Claire Regis. Thoughts on those guys?
Yep. In Division 4, that's probably the other team that I kind of earmarked as one that you're probably, if I had to guess right now, I think a state championship game between St. Mary Catholic and Eau Claire Regis might be the one that we get. I think in terms of what they have, I think they're really interesting, and they have a little bit of a different element than a lot of teams have. So LMA Cooper is, arguably the quickest kid in the entire state. I mean, that kid's as quick as a hiccup. And she can create off the dribble as well as anybody, and there's not really going to be anybody in Division 4 who has a kid who can stay in front of her. But they've been trusting a lot of their young players too. I mean, they have two freshmen that start in Gemma Gardeau, who's been a really nice piece alongside LMA Cooper in that backcourt. But one of the kids that has really been impressive is Evelyn Borcherding, who's a 6'5" post kid from up in Eau Claire.
6'5"?
And she's done a really nice job. Yep, and all of it too. But she's a kid who's used her size really well this year. I think she's done a really nice job finishing around the basket, and I think that she's gotten better from the first time I saw her last summer to now by tenfold. And I would not be surprised if that's a kid who just adds an element that just nobody else in Division 4 can handle. Because I mean, she's probably the tallest kid that's playing high school basketball in Wisconsin right now, and her ability to be able to finish around the rim and kind of be a useful piece to play alongside a kid like LMA Cooper is going to handle the ball and be a screen and roll partner for her is just going to be a big thing for them.
Okay, so where do we land on Regis? I assume we're a buy on Regis.
Oh, I'm all in. I'll buy them.
Yeah, and here's an interesting one: Wisconsin Lutheran. I never know where to actually put those guys. I mean, there's certainly no shortage of talent on that team, but it seems like they struggle in the really big games.
Yeah, they've been a little unlucky this year and last year for that matter too, with London Hollins, missing most of that time due to injury, and unfortunately she had another knee injury this year, which is keeping her out for the rest of this year, obviously. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic than they had at the start of the year. I would say hold on them just because I just really wish that they could kind of get over the hump in some of these games that they've been playing. So they'll play anybody. And they kind of have to get out of that sectional with Pius, who I believe they might be playing at some point this week. And maybe having to play them again in the postseason. But I'll hold on them just because I feel like you said, I kind of have to see it with them before I kind of buy what they're selling.
Well, I mean, and that's a devastating loss, losing Hollis again this year. I mean, like you said, they lost her last year, and now again this year. I mean, that's she we got to see her when they played Pius, and I mean that was a fantastic game, and she was unbelievable. So I mean, you pull that out, and you got to kind of regroup here. Looking at the rest of their schedule, yeah, like you said, Pius on the 23rd, and then the only other really challenge I think is going to be Pewaukee at Pewaukee on February 13th. The rest of the games, I think that they should win those games unless something happens. But that's it's going to be an interesting draw for them again in the postseason. I believe they lined up with actually they're not with Tosa East. Tosa East is now in Division 1, so I'm not sure who else is in that sectional with them now.
That'd be the Whitefish Bay and Pius.
Yeah, that's
in that top half of that sectional.
Okay, yeah, that's right. All right. One more, and then we're going to take a quick break. And this is an ad, so I'm throwing this on the pile here. I saw them last night. Was really impressed. I mean, the competition wasn't great, but Notre Dame. I think they're kind of laying in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, that was my pick to actually come out of that sectional at the start of the year. So another little pat on the back for me for now. But I think that the talent there is just so great. And I think that with a coach like Sarah Rhodey, who's always going to get the most out of all the kids that are there, there's just not really much of a weak spot in terms of players that they'll be able to throw out in the court. I think Destiny Webster has become like an incredible piece to what they do. And I did not expect that after that.
Her development, Brady, is really unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And if you doubt that Sarah's an elite coach, look at Destiny from when she came in the program, even 2 years ago, and even some last year, to where she is now. It's a completely different player.
Yeah, I mean that's a kid that's starting after Trista Feda left is a pretty hard act to follow up.
Speaking of Trista Feda, let me stop you right there. I told her dad last night, I think Ava Kumachek is the next Trista Feda at Notre Dame.
That is a comparison I've also heard from people, which is exciting because I actually was watching that Milwaukee Green Bay game with Liz Gresh, and I could not tell her enough how much I was a fan of Trista Feda before and now. When I heard that comparison from an AAU director over the summer, I was like, I'm all in. I don't need to hear any more about Ava Kumachek.
I don't think she's got the height that Trista does, but I mean the ball handling skills and the court vision is very, very solid.
Oh yeah, and a lot like Peyton Musial as a freshman too. They're not really asking her to do more than she needs to do,
right?
To help that team compete. When you have kids like Kaya Waldrop, Brianna Brees even coming off the bench, who's, would start on probably 99% of teams around the state, buying into that role. And, there's just so much there to like. And with a coach who's going to, has been there, done that. And, is maybe the highest regarded coach in terms of high school girls basketball in the state, or arguably one of them. It's really hard to bet against that group.
I didn't ask this last night. But I feel like that, especially the senior class, may have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Of course, we talk about that 2024 class that was, unbelievable, Gracie and Trista and everybody else. But, I almost wonder if this class feels a little bit, hey, we're kind of, backseat to those guys. And especially the senior class, Webster, Kaya Waldrop. I mean, she's back. I mean, she is back and back and back. Addie Simpson, Emma Syak, and of course, Aspen Abel. I just feel like maybe this team, this group especially, has matured enough to the point where it's really about, team wins, not individual wins. And I'm not sure it's always been that way, but just the vibe I got last night, I mean, this is a very focused team.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because I've seen them play once this year. I watched them play Hartford, and in as a whole, it wasn't their best game. Destiny was incredible that game. It was the big reason that they were in it at the end. But it's just there's so many ways they can hurt you. Whether it's playing a high low with Aspen and Kaya, or running different sets to get kids like Ava or Aspen open looks from the perimeter, or bringing Brianna Brees in, playing next to Kaya. Well, there's just so many things they can do. That it's just really hard to find one team that I'm like, what, I think they match up really well with them, because I think Notre Dame's just super versatile in what they can do. That senior class, they were around for the end of that obviously run. In Aspen's case, her first year was that sophomore year. They lost to Pewaukee, and Kaya obviously was a part of a state championship winning team before. There's still a little bit of that pedigree that's there from that dominant run they had, and again, it's hard to bet against it. It's one of those teams where it's like, I know they're really good, and it's going to be, and I can't bet against them because I know that that's one of them that would nip me in the behind, come state tournament time.
And it's interesting too. I'm just looking at their schedule now. So, their losses, the Pewaukee and Oostburg, those were back-to-back games, within a week of each other, November 22nd, November 28th. And their next loss was Hartford, as you mentioned. That was December 20th. They have not lost since then. I don't know that there's anybody they've played since that they could have maybe lost to, but I will say that, go ahead.
That Providence Catholic team down in Illinois is a very good one. that's a team who's you're probably going to see downstate in normal at the end of the year with the Callahan sisters going over there. For people that don't know, Landry Callahan's incredibly talented, and that's a kid who's going to be playing out at Pepperdine. So definitely a lot of talent on that team, and that's definitely was not an easy one for them to go down. And I believe I forget what the name of that event is, but it's basically one that pretty much emphasizes the growing game on the women's side, and all the coaches that are coaching teams there are all female coaches. So
they went down there a couple years ago, beat Nazarene down there in that tournament a couple years ago. They Notre Dame. So I mean, yeah, it's an annual pilgrimage down there that they generally make. To me, the big test is going to be a big test for this team is Friday night. If we have a game Friday night, but at De Pere now. With that said, I mean, they beat De Pere 56-39 back on December 5th. But I think that could be a nice little rematch with those two.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about a chip on that senior class's shoulder for Notre Dame, I'm sure them not winning conference last year is also probably a pretty big chip on their shoulders. So I'm sure that they're taking, extra close looks at all these teams in the FRCC and making sure that they go out on top of that conference and, restart what that, winning streak looked like before last year with FRCC teams.
Well, they did a nice job on Abby Tussle the last time, 2 of 10 from the field, just 6 points. As a team, De Pere shot 29% in that game, 15 of 51 and 3 of 19 from 3. I don't know that you can bank on that happening again. Of course, you got to give credit to the Notre Dame defense, but at the same time, I don't know that you could count on those kids having that kind of game again.
Yeah, for sure. And, at any point in time, Abby Tussle's a kid who can just kind of find a little bit of a groove and, go on a 10-0 run herself if you're not really all that careful. I think that's another team in De Pere who has just a lot of pieces that can hurt you in a bunch of different ways. And that's been the spotlight game in the FRCC the last handful of years, and this year it's no different.
Well, hey, there's 37 minutes of solid hoops talk. Let's take a quick break. You're watching the 6-7 Sasscast on W7. W7, we are back. This is the 6-7 Sasscast. Gary Wipperman and Brady Peterson, and now the segment of the show that I'm going to stay as far away from as possible because I've hurt kids' feelings on this in the past, and I don't want to do that. So, but this is what Brady does for a living. So we're gonna have Brady. We're gonna quiz Brady on his end of season predictions as far as state tournament. And so what we'll do is we'll go through each division. Brady's going to give me his 4 teams for the state tournament this year, and then we'll check back in 3 weeks and see how he's doing. All right, Brady, tell me when you're ready.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, all right. So let's start with Division 1. Give me your 4 for Division 1.
I'll say my sectional 4 one because I think it's the easiest one of all of them. Where I think just Tosis is just going to find their way into the state tournament, just not by default, but as close to default as you can get in a competitive sense. So I think they'll be at the state tournament. I think sectional 1 is probably going to be the most interesting one of them all because I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of in the same grouping of teams up there.
Well, it's similar to that sectional of death from last year. So it's
I would agree.
The highlights would be De Pere, Notre Dame, Kimberly, Spash, Eau Claire Memorial, Hortonville, and those are the highlights.
Yeah, and there's going to be a handful of teams who go home without any silverware this year that probably deserve it. I think the teams that are playing the best right now are probably Kimberly, Spash, Notre Dame, and Eau Claire Memorial. I think those are the teams that you're probably going to see in a sectional, or at least the 4 best teams that could make it. Seeding can make it a little wonkier. And I think Kimberly's starting to kind of find their groove a little bit. They rectified a pretty close win with Hortonville earlier in the year with a pretty convincing double-digit win at Hortonville. I would not be surprised to see them come out of that sectional. I took Notre Dame to start the year, and I'm going to hold true to my guns and not flip-flop. So I'll say Notre Dame, I think, still comes out of here. But I would say that Eau Claire Memorial team is pretty close on their tails, and Spash with Jada Soybert over there and Leah Awe, just the talent they have is unbelievable. But I think the one that you're going to see come out of there, if I had to bet, is Notre Dame. But that four of Kimberly Point, Notre Dame, and Eau Claire Memorial are the ones that are going to be favored to probably come out of there.
What about Hudson? We didn't talk. I overlooked them. I mean, they're having a great year as well.
Yeah, I really like Hudson. I think for them, it's going to kind of be if they can kind of turn some of the stuff around. I mean, they just played up at Rice Lake last week and played one of probably the worst games they've played in a while, just in terms of shooting the ball. For them, I think the talent is there for them to make a run. And I think offensively in particular, I think they're a really, really interesting team with Olivia LeBlanc being a bit of a point forward there. I think that they're the team that could kind of usurp some of these other teams and surprise some people. But for them, I'm going to have to see it more with them. They're going to play Eau Claire Memorial twice in the span of a week here coming up, just due to weather canceling the first one. So after that week where they play them twice, I think you're going to have a pretty clear idea of where that team sits in terms of the hierarchy in the sectional.
So you're saying Notre Dame, Kimberly, Eau Claire Memorial, and who was the fourth?
Spash.
Oh, Spash, right? Okay.
But I'll take Notre Dame if I'm going to lean into these predictions.
Notre Dame to take it. Got it. Okay. All right. Let's go D1 sectional 2. We got to move along here.
Okay, I'll make them quick.
Right,
this one I'll make very quick. I'll take Appleton East to win it. I think they're playing the best basketball out of everybody in the sectional, and they're the ones who I think have proven it more so than anybody else. And Pewaukee with injuries obviously is rough. Hartford's going to be a team that's tough to beat, and so is Nina, especially with their own Klesmith there. But I think Appleton East is the one that's playing the best basketball of that bunch.
So Appleton East D1 sectional 2. All right. How about sectional 3?
Sectional 3 is one that's a little bit deeper than I think people may think, with some of the Big 8 schools kind of playing good basketball. I think Arrowhead is, with Libby Gilmore back, is just playing unbelievable basketball.
Yeah.
I think we'll see what they look like next to a really good Waunakee team this weekend, but I think Arrowhead's going to be the one that takes this one at the end of the day.
Yeah, Waunakee to me is like the wild card. I mean, Tessa Bryan, of course, just became the all-time leading scorer at Waunakee. They're 13-1. 7-0 in the Badger Large. I mean, they're, and I like Marcus a lot and what he does there. But I also like Memorial. I don't think I don't disagree with you. And I'm sure you're not saying this, but I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk through that sectional by any means for Arrowhead. I think there's going to be some good battles in there.
Oh yeah, and I think Reichley and all those Arrowhead players remember looking up at that scoreboard with a minute 20 left last year and being down 9 in overtime. I'm sure that's they're not going to take anybody lightly over there.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. All right, D1 sectional 4. I think we can cover this one pretty quickly. Looking at it, I don't see anybody that could give Tosa East even a serious run. Do you?
Yeah, as long as everybody gets off the bus healthy with Tosa East, I think that they're going to be the heavy favorite to come out of there, and I don't see anybody beating them. I'd take them to win that one.
Yeah. So you're 4. Let me just recap here: Notre Dame, Appleton East, Arrowhead, and Tosa East.
Couple D2 programs potentially making it to Green Bay in Division 1.
Yeah, that'd be a nice field. I mean, that'd be a good field. All right. Let's move along here. D2 sectional 1. Go ahead.
Yep. So the top half of that, I think you're probably going to see either Rice Lake or La Crosse Central. La Crosse Central played really well with Aquinas yesterday, and I think that that's a team who's better than I thought they were. I think that Rice Lake team is just going to be a little bit too physically overpowering for them with Addie Shepley and Addie Schmidt up there. On the bottom half, I think Shawano comes out of there again, and I think we get a rematch of that sectional final last year, and it's just going to be too tough to bet against Rice Lake and the talent they have in their front court. So I'll take the Warriors out of sectional 1.
So Rice Lake and sectional 1. Let's go sectional 2. Here's where your Elkhorn team is, and Edgewood as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean Edgewood's got to be the odds-on favorite, I would think.
Yep, I would say Edgewood and Elkhorn probably are the ones that you see in a sectional final. However, I would also earmark that Milton team as one who could be a little bit of a party disruptor. Played a really, really tough schedule, and I think that backcourt is pretty good. And I think that they're starting to kind of find their groove. I mean, they played some really tough teams earlier in the year, so don't count them out. Same thing with Catholic Memorial. They found that same boat in the bottom half. So if Milton and Catholic Memorial were to find their way through, I wouldn't be necessarily surprised, but I'll say Edgewood is the one that ultimately finds their way back to Green Bay for, I believe, would be the 3rd year in a row.
And just to expand on the Milton team, so I saw them Saturday against Watertown. Kind of a slow start, but they were able to kind of get steam and win it pretty handily. But with that said, I was really impressed with Maddie Vin. I hadn't seen her play before. I thought she was fantastic, and Butch, and of course, is very good as well, and Keelan as well. But I'm with you. I think Milton could cause some trouble. I like that Coach Skemp put together a very challenging schedule. In fact, if you're watching this on Thursday, we'll be in Milton tonight for Beaver Dam and Milton. It'd be a nice matchup there with those two.
Oh, for sure. And all those Badger large games with those top teams, I feel like are always really fun to watch. Honestly, in terms of the entertainment value you get out of the majority of conference games, the Badger large has to be up there with one of the most entertaining conferences to follow along with.
I was surprised that Milton beat Oregon by 30 points. I was surprised by that, and I was surprised they put up 97 points on Oregon. That
Yeah, I
surprised me.
mean, yeah, no, I was pretty surprised by that score too, but it was definitely an eyebrow raiser for me to, have to probably tune in and go back and watch that game at some point. I think I got maybe halfway through the first half before I had to do other stuff, but definitely one I'll have to go back and watch just to see how they were able to put up 97 in that game.
So you're Edgewood for D2 sectional 2. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
All right. This is a fun one here. D2 sectional 3.
I think this is the most fun one in Division Two. I really do. I think it's going to be really fun. I think there's a clear cut of three with Fox Valley Lutheran being the one that's kind of the interesting one in the top half who could upset Xavier. I think Xavier gets out of that top half, and that bottom half I think is going to be really fun. I think Beaver Dam is obviously really good, and Taya Donalds is incredible. But I, like that Grafton team, they're just kind of around. Like I think that's a team they've proven they can win in Beaver Dam before if they have to make the trip to Beaver Dam. I would not be stunned to see Grafton find their way into a sectional final this year. I said that last year, and I feel like I was a little bit unlucky with how that Waukesha West game played out. So I'll let them lay in the weeds for now. But I think that Xavier is the one to kind of watch. They have a lot of that talent that's been to the state tournament a couple years in a row now, and even without the Kroll sisters, which is I feel like is one of the saddest things that I've ever witnessed in terms of high school basketball. But I think with the talent that they have with Bryn and Haley Hafner is one of my favorite kids to watch play. Just the depth that they have is going to be a little bit too much for everybody here. So I'll take Xavier to win this one.
How crazy is that, Brady? Brady, how crazy is that for Xavier? I mean, 2 years ago, D4, and they went out D3 last year, and now D2. I mean, you just can't be not impressed with Coach Vandehey and what they've built at Xavier. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and I mean it's every year they've always played a lot of kids, and they've always had kids who they can trust off their bench, and I think that's kind of been a big difference for them. They haven't had to be heavily reliant on any one or two kids, and with as unlucky as they've been with injuries, it's been probably a big help for them to be able to have 4 or 5 kids come off the bench and be able to play a role for them. So yeah, super impressed with Xavier, and smallest school in the Division II field this year, and they're going to be one of the toughest ones to beat.
You mentioned these guys. I want to just touch on them real quick. Fox Valley Lutheran. I'm not quite sure where I stand on them. I'm kind of a hold. I mean, they lost to Xavier by 5, which, of course, that's the second time they played them. They lost them by 24 the first time, and they lost to Winneconne by 24. I'm not exactly sure where these guys are headwise. We're going to see them at Winnebago Lutheran on January 28th. But when I look at the rest of their schedule, I mean, the only teams I see that's going to be a real challenge, maybe Shawano puts up a challenge there as well as Winneconne. I think I'm curious about where this team is, FVL.
Yeah, so FVL is really young. Their 2 leading scorers are both underclassmen, and the one that I am actually very interested in seeing this week, at least as long as weather cooperates on Saturday, to be able to see them play West Salem, is Kinley Peterson. She's been their only double-digit scorer this year, but she's been really efficient.
I'm a big Kinley Peterson fan. I got to see her at the Beaver Dam shootout. She was our player of the game, and I thought she was just fantastic. I mean, and a freshman too. That was like her first or second game in her varsity career.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how those younger kids kind of play in some of the more higher profile games in the postseason, and obviously they're going to have a challenge with Xavier again, more than likely in the postseason. So, and they've shown they can compete with them now. They know, they're not completely outclassed by a Xavier team who has as much pedigree as anybody in this Division II field. So, Very curious to kind of see what they look like this year, and obviously with the talent they have, probably for the next handful of years as well.
The other kid to mention on that team is Bree Dahlke. I mean, Bree also a great softball player, but just a really solid overall athlete. And she's a kid I would just tell you. I mean, she knows how to win games. I mean, she's done it in multiple sports. I really like her attitude, her mental makeup. She's very solid mentally. I think she's one to watch as well. All right, let's
Yep.
move on. We're running against the clock here. Where are we here? Division 2, Sectional 4.
Yep. I'll make this easy, and I think I'll just say Whitefish Bay.
Yeah.
I think that they're as good as anybody in Division 2, and with injuries and other stuff in this sectional, I think that they're going to be the toughest team to beat here. So I'll take the Blue Dukes of Whitefish Bay.
The only challenge I see for them, and this would be, they would have to play like their best game of the year would be Pius, if all the stars aligned. But I'm not seeing that right now. They've lost 5 in a row after their start. So I'm not sure where that ship is headed right now. But if they can somehow recapture that form from the beginning of the year, especially that first in their November form, I mean they could definitely give them a challenge. I just don't know that I'm seeing the team that I'm seeing right now could do that.
Yep. The talent's there for sure. And if you told me in March that they were to, beat Whitefish Bay, I wouldn't necessarily be the most surprised person in the world. But, they're going to have to kind of regain that form that they had earlier. And, obviously some time to do that still, but already almost February. So time's kind of running out.
Yeah. All right. D3, Sectional 1. Is this finally Wittenberg Burnham Wood's year? I mean, they had to play Xavier last year, and there's no Xavier anymore. Hayward is the only other team I see, that could really challenge them. But is this Wittenberg Burnham Wood's year?
Yeah, it has to be. Obviously with Rory Salveson and Melina Granquist, I mean, they've been around a while. They've had the experience of kind of going through the trials and tribulations of the postseason, and Hayward kind of really hasn't had that yet. They have an interesting young post kid at Hayward, but I think it's Wittenberg Burnham Wood's time to, finally get over that hump and play at the Rush Hunter this year.
Is Rory a softball player?
Yep, committed to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now Rory's. I got to see Rory in the Showtime Sports Showcase, and that's there were a couple of Rorys. I'm trying to remember if she was the one, but yes, I do remember now. Yes, she's a great athlete, and again a winner, and I think they're going to be. I agree. I think this might be their year this year for Wittenberg Burnham. Okay, let's go to D3 Sectional 2. This is an interesting one as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in here that just have a lot of kids who are very good. I mean, Aquinas, Edgerton, Wisconsin Dells are probably the class of everything here. And I'll take Edgerton to win it and to make it quick, just because I think Claudia Jenny is as good of a leader as anybody, and I think Gracie Langer is just an absolute handful for any defensive front court to try to deal with. Lancaster is an interesting one though. Lexi Olmstead's a freshman there. Saw them play at Barneveld, and she was incredible in that game. Definitely one who has probably raised my eyebrows the most as a kid, who I didn't know going into a game, and just played some of incredible basketball. And that's another team that has a lot of size. So Lancaster's an interesting one. Platteville's another one. A lot of size there with Rihanna Dye and Avery Richard, who played pretty well out in the Wanakee Holiday tournament stuff they had over there. Lost both games to some pretty good teams in Grafton and Wanakee, but definitely one other team to watch out for. But I think it's Edgerton's time to get over the hump. I think we talked last year about how it might have been a year too early for them.
We did.
And I think this might be the year for them.
Lancaster, the only thing that concerns me about Lancaster is their schedule is not super competitive. I mean, yeah, they played Barneveld. They beat Platteville, but there's a lot of 50, 60-point wins in here. I'm not sure how much you get from that. So I mean, that would be a question I would have for Lancaster. But yeah, they're having a great season. So you're going to say Edgerton. The other thing, Brady, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't know that I ever count out Dave Donarski and Aquinas, just because, I mean, Dave knows how to win big games, when they need to. And, this is Sammy's last go around. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that you don't pick Aquinas to come out of there, or the Dells too. Shia Hopkins, of course, having a great year. There, like you said, there's a lot of very interesting, fun teams in this sectional.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The last handful of years, I mean, it's felt like the state championship is still ran through Aquinas in the sense of you probably got to beat them if you're going to win a state championship, whether it was Laconia a couple of years ago or Cuba City last year. It still feels like even if they're not at the state tournament, the state championship still rose through that Aquinas Blue Golds program.
What worries me with Aquinas is, I mean, it's a lot of weight on Sammy.
Oh, for sure.
They've got other players, but I mean, this team's gonna rise and fall based on where Sammy's at. So I mean, that's gonna be a challenge. All right, sectional 3. I'm pretty sure where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Yeah, sectional 3. I mean, I think Oostburg is going to be the team to beat. Obviously, I don't see anybody beating them in this crop of teams, considering they've already beaten Winneconne. I think Winneconne is better than they showed against Oostburg the first time around. But I think it's Oostburg all the way here. I think Laconia's had an interesting year for a team that's lost pretty much everybody. I think they're probably better than people may think too. But Oostburg is just an absolute unit of a program this year, and I just don't think that anyone in here is going to usurp them. If they did, it would be one of the bigger upsets in the postseason for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they played Winneconne earlier this year with that game on W7. I mean, they were just in a different league. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that's certainly a safe pick. If you wanted to shock the world, I mean, that's not who you'd pick. But I mean, as far as odds on, I gotta agree with you. All right, sectional 4. Boy, you've loved these guys all year, and there's no way you're going back now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with Kettle Moraine Lutheran to win this sectional. I will say there's a couple other teams in here that I think could give them a very competitive game just because of the makeup of their team. With Milwaukee Academy of Science having incredible guard play with
Cortland Guy is having a great year. Cortland Guy is having a fantastic year for Academy of Science.
Oh yeah, and outside of I forget what game they lost. It was a little bit of a one that kind of surprised me a little bit. But that team's been playing really good basketball all year, and a lot of those kids have been around a while now. And Nia Jones is a freshman who's a very impressive young player for them. And I think that that's a team who can, if you told me that they won that sectional, I wouldn't be surprised. Same thing with St. Thomas More, though. St. Thomas More has a lot of upper class talent with Zoe Dispinette and Hannah Boltman. Their size and, their, just physicality could be something that kind of, takes Kettle Moraine Lutheran back a little bit. But definitely won't be the easiest road for them to get to the state tournament again. But, that's why the postseason's so fun is these matchups just make things very, very interesting.
Academy of Science only loss, by the way, was to Xavier on December 5th, 77-55. So that's their only loss on the year. The rest of the way for them, it's Waukesha, the Waukesha Co-op, Oconomowoc, Brown Deer, Middleton, and Spash. I mean, to me, Spash is going to be I think that's smart by Coach Gio putting them at the end of the schedule, and that's kind of almost a playoff preview game. They'll go up to Spash and play them. I think that's I'm a big Coach Gio fan, and I like that. I like that schedule.
Oh yeah, they're gonna make sure they're tested, and they kind of have to with being an independent program in the state. Very unique. They're the Notre Dame of high school athletics in Wisconsin, I would say.
All right, let's go D4, sectional 1. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Regis. I think that this is a very interesting sectional with, Colfax and McDonald both beating Regis in the past and Neilsville giving them a really good game. But I think if Regis can get out of this sectional, I think they're going to be an absolutely incredibly tough team to beat. But yeah, a lot of depth here with Jasmine Hewer being back at Fall Creek too after her ACL tear last May. Happy to see her back. Shell Lake's a interesting one with Quinn Schenkenberg and Athena Lehman. Very, very deep sectional, I would say here, but I think Regis has the best player in LMA Cooper and definitely an interesting mix of kids around her as well. So I'll take Regis.
Beat Aquinas a couple weeks ago or last week, 57-53 at home. But you can never really count out the max. It seems like we think, okay, well, this may not be they may get overtaken this year, but them an Assumption seems like they're always in the fight.
Yep, they always find a way.
Yeah. Okay, D4 sectional 2.
This one I'll take St. Mary Catholic. I think a lot like last year. I think they have the most talent of anyone here. And I just think that their athleticism and just the makeup of that team is just going to be really tough for anybody to handle. I think that we'll see them at the state tournament again this year.
Could Bonduel make a case here?
Potentially. I think it's very similar to the sense of that Oostburg sectional, where I think whoever beats them would have to play one of their best games that they've played all year to compete with that team.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily count out Manitowoc Lutheran. They've had a very, very nice year. They did lose to Kohler this past week, which really surprises me. But I mean, they got beat by Oostburg by pretty handily. But I mean, that's Oostburg, and I thought they played a much better second half, and they beat Sussex Hamilton. We got to see that game as well. But they did lose to St. Mary Catholic 47-39. They'll play them again next week. So, a chance maybe for this, this Lancer team to state their case. But, I'm with you. I mean, until somebody knocks the big kid off the top of the mountain, I'm not sure that you can make any arguments here. And St. Mary Catholic, repeating is certainly there right now. All right, D4 Sectional 3. This one, wow, there's some really heavy hitters in this one. Albany, Monticello, Partyville, and Deerfield. I mean, all having great seasons. Broadhead too, for that matter.
Yeah, I took Deerfield to win the sectional earlier in the year, and they had a little bit of a funky, rough loss to St. Joe's. But I think just their ability to maximize possessions in a style where they're trying to limit possessions just makes them really tough to beat. And I think T. Anderson has really stepped up in a big way for them, in a way where I don't think that I expected coming into the year. And then with teams like Partyville, that's another one who's had a lot of kids around for a long time, very senior oriented with Bronte Hallberg, Lexi Hughes, Ava Wagner. That's a team who's going to be a really tough one to beat just because of their size and skill. And then Albany Monticello, I feel like every year there's always, a new Olsen, it feels like, is coming into the ranks there.
Right.
And they all seem to be really good. And obviously this year a little bit different in D4, but they're a team, if they, probably a lot of those kids that were back from last year's team still kind of have a little bit of sour taste in their mouth with how that Lurds Academy game went at Beaver Dam. So can't really bet against them, but for my purposes, just with how highly I thought of Deerfield heading into the year and how well they've played outside of that one odd one in Kenosha, I'll take the Demons to get out of this sectional and get to the state tournament.
My concern with Albany Monticello is the schedule. They've again, there's another one of those teams that have won games by 40, 50 points. I mean, their only loss was to Argyle Pecatonica. It was a close game, 42-38. But again, my concern there is just the strength of schedule with that team. All right.
Yep, and
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say yep, and like a lot of those teams in Southwest Wisconsin, it's a little bit tough for them to obviously get places just because they're kind of very remote. Yep. But with Albany Monticello, I can at least fall back on the mental makeup of the runs that they've made in the past couple of years.
All right, D4 Sectional 4.
Yeah, I think Dominican is the favorite here. I really like the grouping of talent they have, and another team with a lot of seniors there, and led by Brooklyn Love. But I will say the one team that I'm very curious about how they match up with is that Kohler team. And, I remember us watching them last year at Sheboygan Christian.
Yes.
And, how highly we thought about Gwen Elliott, and she just keeps getting better and better and better. And, she's just really elevating that program to a completely different level. So I would be very curious to know what a Dominican Kohler game could look like in a potential sectional matchup. So, but I will take Dominican.
What about Howard's Grove?
I haven't actually seen them this year. One of the few teams that I haven't. So it's hard for me to really say anything about them in particular. But
well, they lost to St. Mary Catholic by 10 and lost to Manitowoc Lutheran by 7.
And actually, funny. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I was going to go to a Howard's Grove Kohler game on Thursday. However, I'm going to go see Grand Valley play Parkside at Parkside. So I know that that's a game at least coming up tomorrow where it's probably going to be a pretty big tell of where they land in the hierarchy of programs in Sectional 4.
Some wins for them. Sheboygan Christian, by the way, congratulations, Sam Veldkamp just eclipsed 1,000 career points. Congratulations, Samantha. Kiel, I saw Kiel a couple of weeks ago. Well, they shot the lights out in that game against Two Rivers. Those are the two ones that stand out, the two wins. So, again, maybe the resume isn't quite there. They beat St. Mary Springs by 6. The rest of the way for them, I mean, I think they'll get a real test with Kohler on Thursday. So tonight, actually, they play Kohler at Kohler, and then St. Mary Catholic again, January 30th. And we all talk what ifs, but what if Soraya Benton is still on at Howard's Grove? Boy, what a difference that would make.
Oh, for sure.
All right, let's move on to D5 sectional 1. Go ahead.
So I'll take Oliva Strum. I think Webster's had a really good year outside of Oliva Strum in the sectional. But I think that just the way Oliva Strum plays, they have a lot of kids who can make plays. They have a guard in Avery Glenn, so I've been really high on for a long time. But there's another guard in that backcourt that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. When I went to see him, just her ability to is a smaller guard there. He just plays so hard, and I think a lot of those kids play really hard. And any team who has the talent to kind of just run up the score and just have a lot of kids who can put the ball in the basket is going to be really tough to beat, and that's what that Oliva Strum team is. So they've been one of the best teams in Division 5. I've been really high on them for a long time now, and I think this is the year for them to get over the hump and get to Green Bay.
I see we're talking about Medea Brown from
Yep, that'd be the one.
Okay. See, Brady, you're not perfect. You don't know everything.
Oh, believe me, I'm far from perfect.
Pretty darn close, though. Pretty darn close. All right, so Oliva Strum in D4, or D5 sectional 1. All right, let's go sectional 2.
Yeah, sectional 2 is the one with a lot of those Six Rivers teams. I'll take Argyle Peck because I just think that they're the best of that bunch. And obviously, a lot of those kids have been to state before 2 years ago when they played Albany Monticello. But a lot of really talented teams. Blair Taylor with Andrea Waldera, last remaining starter from that Blair Taylor team that went to the state championship in 23. Schulzberg, who got McKinley Russell back, who just beat Barneveld for the first time in God knows how long. And then obviously with Barneveld in there too. With a kid like Izzy Durst, who I would argue is the best kid in the sectional, and with the most successful coach in terms of wins in state history, and Jim Myers roaming the sidelines still at Barneveld. So definitely a really deep sectional, but I think that Argyle Pecatonica, just the way they play and with the talent they have and now the experience they have, and with having Jen Mullins on the sidelines, who's going to make sure everything is who's going to make sure that they're as ready to go as anybody. So I'll take the old co-op of Argyle Pecatonica to get out of there.
All right, let's go sectional 3, and I've got a personal favorite on this one, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is another one that's very interesting as well. I think Division 5 is a very deep division this year. I think Pacelli is the one that's going to probably win this one. I think that's, again, we talk about teams who've kind of gone through those trials and tribulations. Pacelli is another one. Those freshmen in Jane Stroik, Maddie Pionic, and others had a really signature win their freshman year at St. Mary Catholic, of all places. And they're actually going to play them, I believe, this weekend again. But I think the guard play is going to be what holds them back against Pacelli this year. Columbus Catholic has a really young backcourt, Izzy Holes and Ellie Gardner. Ellie Gardner is very talented if you haven't seen her play yet. Alban Bancroft with Maya Dernbach is incredible. And then, Lena.
Let's stop at Alban Bancroft. Okay. I'm going to say, watch out for them, because I'm looking at their roster. Every player, maybe with the exception of one, played on that softball team last year that made it to the state championship game. And, Maya Dernbach and Aaliyah Newby, I mean, they're both very, very good, and Oakley Almernick as well. So, I'd keep your eye on that Alban Bancroft team.
Oh, for sure. And that's another one who just has a lot of experience at this point. And, for them, I think this is probably going to be their shot to get to the state tournament. And I would not be surprised if they did. There's a lot of really good teams here. And then just quickly on Lena, maybe the most interesting story of the year is Maddie Thompson playing through what I believe to be is a partially torn ACL after getting hurt in July.
That's insane.
And that kid's been having a great year. Even though she's had to play a little bit differently than she has in the past. But very impressed with how she's been able to handle herself this year. And for them, probably a little bit on the outside looking in terms of the favorites here, especially with Pacelli, who's been absolutely incredible. But just want to shout out Maddie for a quick second, but I'll take the Cardinals of Pacelli to get to Green Bay this year.
Well, got to give a lot of love to Jaden Zroik at Pacelli. What a talent she is.
Yeah, talk about video game numbers. That'd be one for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's close it out here. D5 sectional 4.
Yeah, D5 sectional 4 is a very odd one, just because of how many schools are from kind of all over the place, from pretty much down the Lake Michigan border. I think Sheboygan Lutheran's probably played the best out of all of them, but this is one that's super wide open. And if you told me that like Randolph with Manny Medema and Lexi Zemmel in that backcourt found a way to, get on a hot streak and get to a state tournament, I wouldn't be stunned. But I will take Sheboygan Lutheran and I will be safe. Actually, you know what? No, I'll be daring. Let's go Randolph as the one that's completely out of left field to get to the state tournament.
Okay, well, so let me just say a couple things about that. Number one, I love Chad Kaufman. He's a fantastic coach. He does a great job, and I love the Randolph kids. I saw them against Poynette. It wasn't pretty from what I saw. Now that's one sample out of an entire season. So I'm a big Funky Cold Medema fan. Everybody knows that, and Zemlo as well. I think it's a reach, but I like the confidence.
Yeah, I have to go out of left field at least once, and I think if there's one where there's going to be a team that comes out of left field, it's probably going to be in D5 sectional 4. And again, like I think guards are kind of king in or queens, I guess, in that sense for girls basketball. But you could tell me there's a lot of teams that come out of this sectional, and I honestly wouldn't even be able to give you a good pick as who I think is probably the best. But I mean, in terms of guards, I think Randolph probably has better guards than most teams here, and I could see them making a bit of a surprise run. I guess there was one team who I can't even remember. I won't waste time thinking about stuff that I probably won't remember for another hour. Yeah, I'll take Randolph to come out of here as a surprise pick.
Very interesting, and I'm with you
only to make sure people listen.
Yeah, well,
for the clickbait, of course.
I'm with you in the point that, I mean, this is probably the most wide open sectional of the entire field is this D5 sectional 4, because, when I look, I mean, Sheboygan Christian, could make a run. Well, it really hurt them losing Van Dennen. That's a big loss for Sheboygan Christian this year with her ACL tear. Central Wisconsin Christian's always good. And of course, Lourdes, they've got the chops. They've been there. I mean, I know Bauer isn't there anymore, but Coach Starr is still there. So I mean, they could make a run too. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one where if you're making a bracket, good luck getting a perfect one because it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, that's what makes the postseason
That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. Well, Brady, thank you for your time, and all of you. Thank you for if you've made it the whole hour, seek professional help. I'll just leave it at that. But we appreciate it. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us and letting us get up here and just talk like we know what we're talking about, which we really don't, but it's fun to do it anyway. And we hope you've enjoyed it. This has been the 6-7 Full Court Sasscast on W7. Have a great week and keep watching. And Brady and I are kind of in a race on who's going to do the most games this year. He might get me this year. So we'll see. But you've been watching W7. Brady, thanks so much.
I absolutely love being here.
Hey, last thing, we are W7 and we are for the girls.